Hello and welcome to the Mushroom Murder Trial podcast. My name is Lisa. More than 2 years after the fatal death cap mushroom lunch at Leongatha, Erin Patterson has finally been served her sentence, 33 years non-parole. The mother of two will be aged approximately 83 when she can apply to leave prison. Patterson was found guilty in July of 3 counts of murder, so they were against Doug and Gail Patterson and Heather Wilkinson, and 1 count of attempted murder against Ian Wilkinson, concerning the beef Wellington lunch she hosted on July 29, 2023. After a mammoth 11-week trial, a jury in Victoria returned guilty verdicts for all charges against Miss Patterson. Justice Christopher Beale started his sentencing remarks today by reminding us the prosecution submitted Patterson's actions were in the worst category and should receive the maximum sentence. He said, and I agree, quote. He added that during the trial, the prosecution did not have to prove a motive for her crimes. Quote, only you know why you committed them, he said to Patterson. According to the ABC, the murderer showed very little emotion during the trial, and today they got absolutely no response. Very little emotion. She closed her eyes for some of it, but was very composed. Well, I suppose when you don't get what you've done. The mother of two had also faced 3 charges of repeatedly attempting to murder her estranged husband, Simon Patterson. But the allegations were discontinued at the start of the murder trial. For the first time, the Supreme Court of Victoria granted permission for a television camera to film Justice Beale handing down his sentencing remarks. The footage, which other media outlets could rebroadcast, went live with a 10-second delay. Patterson now has until the 6th of October to appeal against her conviction, sentence or both. She's pleaded not guilty to all charges and claimed the deaths were a tragic accident. Well, what I know about Erin from the group that I was in, I wasn't in the main group, but I was in an offside group where I came across her. I think she will want to appeal. Whether she's able to appeal is a different thing. Now, just to let everyone know, the standard sentence is 25 years imprisonment in Victoria, according to a guide for judicial officers produced by the Sentencing Advisory Council of Victoria. Standard sentences apply to a range of serious offences and must be considered a guidepost by the court. Now, the last triple murderer before Erin to be sentenced in Victoria was Robert Farquharson, and you may have heard of him. He was convicted of murdering his children on Father's Day, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term also of 33 years. Okay, so let's start now on my brain dump, the notes that I took today, and we'll go through them further in another podcast. But the judge reminded Erin she was familiar with that iNaturalist website, and that was the one where citizen scientists say if they saw a waratah, they would put it on this website so people knew about it, especially important if something's toxic like death caps. And we're going to get to that because earlier, about a year before the offence, Erin navigated to Moorabbin, which is a place in Victoria where there was a sighting of death cap mushrooms. Justice Beale also said that there was the child support dispute whereby the true crime group, she was absolutely scathing of her in-laws with Simon. I wasn't involved in that. But she spoke to a lady by the name of Christine Hunt, who was in the group, and said things like, this family, I swear to you know what, just forget about them. And Simon was gaslighting her. He was a deadbeat. And that Gail and Don were using weasel words. She asked why Gail wasn't horrified by her son's actions. Now, if we go back in time, we also hear about there was a visit to Loch Reserve, a place on iNaturalist that Erin possibly knew about. On the day she bought the dehydrator, it looked as though her phone had hit towers in the Loch Reserve area. And there were photographs of death cap mushrooms on her kitchen bench and on the dehydrator that she had sent through to the friends of the Facebook group, which I just find telling on yourself, Erin. So on May 21, it was possible that Erin's phone, because it hit towers in the Outram area, and a specialist by the name of Tom May posted. So also the court heard, and the Justice Beale also emphasised that it was possible she visited Lock Reserve the same day she bought that dehydrator that she ditched at the recycling centre. And because her phone was hitting towers, and for someone who is so into true crime, why did she take her phone with her? I just don't understand. And also there were photos of death cap mushrooms that an expert, Dr. May, said were almost 99% death caps. And these photos were on her kitchen bench and in the dehydrator to the Facebook group. Telling on yourself. So it's very possible she went to Outram, where there were reported death caps. So on May 22, Erin hit cell towers in Outram. He also mentioned that she had been sending Gail messages about a lump in her arm and a needle biopsy and an MRI, and Erin was saying she had important medical news. But Justice Beale said he accepted Anne Wilkinson's evidence that there were 4 grey plates and 1 orange tan plate that Erin ate off because she didn't want to make herself sick. And he also accepted the evidence that Anne gave of Erin falsely saying she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. That's a whole story, isn't it? We'll have to go into that. Wasn't ovarian cancer. She was going to have gastric bypass surgery, which then she was going to have liposuction. That's what she said in her testimony in court. Okay, so after the lunch, it is a fact that between midnight and 1 a.m, the families were seriously unwell. Now, Erin could have helped them here by saying that she foraged, but she denied it. Very, very strange to deny that unless you've got a guilty conscience. Unless you forgot, perhaps. Anyway. But that same day, while the others were starting to die of multiple organ failure, Erin took her son to a flying lesson. And she falsely claimed, or she fed them the leftovers of the beef Wellington, but didn't want them to come into the hospital to be checked because she thought that they would be stressed out. So she changed her story, foraged mushrooms in a container. That was an accident. So, yes, she said that in her house in Melbourne, she had these terrible forage mushrooms stored in a container, but I don't know if that's true. Justice Beale said there was an enormous betrayal of trust, quote, inflicted untold suffering on your own children, quote, by losing their beloved grandparents. 4 generations of this family have been traumatised. Don's sister, Dorothy Dicker, said in her victim impact statement, your failure to exhibit any remorse rubs salt into the wounds. David Wilkinson, so he's Ian and Heather's son, recalled in his victim impact statement his mother, Heather, was begging for water. Her insides were burning and she could not have water because of the medical situation. Ian also had black lips. Yet, there was an offer of forgiveness from Ian Wilkinson. You would do well to embrace it. And Justice Beale agreed. He said that he had minimal background on Erin Patterson, no psych reports, no personal references. She was born in Adelaide in 1974. Her maiden name was Scudder, or she moved to Hampton, Victoria. Justice Beale added, you maintain your innocence, no remorse. So in prison at the moment, in the Gordon part of the Dame Phyllis Frost Centre, there's 20 cells and she's not permitted to mix with the others, except for her next door neighbour who's a terrorist. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, should I? It's not funny, solitary confinement, but she is in solitary confinement and will be for quite a few years to come because she's at great risk of attack because the crimes are very notorious. But being in solitary confinement, that's something that's important and weighty. So he took that into account and gave her life with parole at 33 years. Well, if she can apply, it doesn't mean she'll necessarily get it. But Erin, as the ABC said, showed no emotion, but Ian Wilkinson did speak to the media on his way out. Again, he's been there nearly every day during the trial, during the sentencing. It's incredible. And he said some amazing things in his victim impact statement. He said he was no longer her victim and he wants her, as I said before, to become a better person. As well as this, we heard again, 23 hours a day, Erin spends locked in her cell. And during her plea hearing, Justice Beale said, Erin is confined to a small cell for 23 hours a day. Her only chance for conversation, as I said, comes by a mesh fence. Or if she gets permission, they can talk through an intercom just with one other inmate. So that's all I've got for you at the moment. I'll probably have something later today, but thank you for listening. My name's Lisa. This is the Mushroom Murder Trial podcast. Make sure you follow this podcast. I've got so much material here for you, and also get the free newsletter on my website, mushroommurdertrial.com. Okay, have a fabulous day. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.